The Korle Bu Teaching Hospital's outpatient services have been severely impacted due to a shortage of essential reagents in one of its 3 dialysis centers, leaving kidney disease patients requiring critical treatment in limbo. The shortage of chemical reagents for dialysis machines have caused distress among patients, leaving a significant portion of the hospital's capacity and use and affecting the quality of healthcare provided. The hospital says it is working diligently to address the shortage and resume full outpatient services possible. Well, we have been speaking to experts on the back of this particular story, and we know that the situation has been worsened by the plight of kidney patients, and the PRO for Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, Mustafa Salifu, has been speaking.
Had the challenge with the supply of the reagents since May. These are supplies that we import into the country, so there are issues in the supply chain that actually it's out of the control and purview of the hospital. So, but thankfully, last week we were able to clear these items at the port. They are currently in the hospital. So we are cleaning and resetting our things so that we can open up the cabin for patients to have their dialysis done there. You know, in Korle Bu, we have about 3 areas where we do these dialysis for patients. We have a unit where we take care of only inpatients and then emergencies. We also have another center at the cardiothoracic center, and then one that we refer to as the cabin for outpatients. So these are the 3 areas. So while the cabin was not working, these other 2 areas were working. And there are also opportunities. It's not like it where Korle Bu was the only place where one could go for dialysis. The other centers within the metropolis where patients can go to for their dialysis. And some of them they were taking advantage of these other facilities to undergo dialysis in Accra. There are several issues involved. It's not just solely financial. There are other issues. This is a contract that we signed with the suppliers, and there were issues with the contract itself that we're undergoing a review of the contract and also taking care of the financials as well. But thankfully, I want to say that this has been resolved, and then we have taken delivery of these reagents, and then within the course of the week, we will be able to do all the necessary preparatory works so that we can open up the cabin for our patients to come for their dialysis.
We'll definitely be bringing you more developments on this situation subsequently. Still on health, let's take you to the Daboya Health Center in the Savannah region, where shortage of beds, popularly referred to as the no-bed syndrome, is impacting negatively on the healthcare delivery there. Savannah regional correspondent Christopher Mwako has come through with the following report.
Hospital beds play an important role in healthcare by assisting patients to obtain optimal comfort. However, its absence has a detrimental impact on the health of patients. This phenomenon has become a major worrying situation for inpatients at the Daboya and Mankarago Health Centers. At the Daboya Health Center, a patient on admission will be fortunate to get a bed to lie on. Nurses have to do early discharge of patients to make way for others who are waiting on benches. Those whose conditions are critical take over the beds, with those with mild conditions made to sit in plastic chairs.
Because you have cases you have to detain and take care of, and the question is, where does the patient lie?
The situation even looks dire at the Mankarago Health Center. Here, some patients receive treatment under trees. The Daboya and Mankarago Health Centers all serve as referral centers within the North Gonja district. With an average daily admissions of more than 15 patients for each of the facilities, the availability of beds for use by patients still remains a challenge. I have been admitted here at the health center, but I'm told there is no bed for me, so I have to sit in a plastic chair to take my treatment. For patient relatives and residents, the situation is frustrating.
Our MP is the Deputy Minister of Health, but seeing things, he's not doing anything about it.
In a telephone interview, MP for the area and Deputy Minister of Health, Alhaji Asay Seni, described the situation as unfortunate, but assured that beds will be deployed to the facility in a week's time. Issues like no-bed syndrome will derail the country's health gains and may further widen the gap towards achieving quality health goals. Christopher Mwako, TV3 News, Daboya.
Back to the capital, let's focus on the most talked about. Organizers of the Occupy Jubilee House protests say they will extend their advocacy to other regions to demand reforms and better living. According to them, the three-day demonstration, which faced fierce resistance by the police, will not be the last in their quest for accountability and proper economic management.
The Occupy Jubilee House protesters have blamed government for mismanaging public finances, which they say could have been used to create jobs and support the private sector. According to them, widespread corruption and youth unemployment are making life unbearable for citizens.
Our leaders do not also have a focus when it comes to being ineffective and inefficient. They have been ineffective, inefficient in all sectors of governance. One message is that we need a reform. And if we do not have an accountable system to check the democracy that we have, unfortunately, we are going to lose this democracy.
A political scientist at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asasante, agrees.
If a group feels that the economy has been mismanaged to the extent that they cannot find livelihoods, then of course, it's a legitimate call, because if you look at the unemployment levels in this country, it's very high. Look at the issue of corruption they talk about. If they are asking for this, I think they are legitimate call.
Members of Democracy Hub say they will sustain their advocacy and possibly involve other regions.
If there is anything we need to work upon in our next protest, is to advertise it more and even take it to other regions and expand the communication of the protest.
For Dr. Asasante, things could be done better.
Government pressure is not the best. It doesn't help. But the reality is what the demonstrators are bringing forward to the attention of everybody. What they are talking about, that the economy has been mismanaged.
The Ghana Police Service says it will hold a debriefing session with organizers of the demonstration.
The National Youth Wing of the ruling NPP says it was unable to take home any salient concrete reasons and demand from the three-day Occupy Jubilee House protest, except for the usual rhetoric of fix the road, motorway, cost of living and other tangential, which borders on politics. The group, in a six-pointer statement signed by the National Youth Organizer, Salam Mustafa, outlined a number of achievements by the current government. The group, while condemning the action by the police force on the first day of the demonstration, acknowledged the gallant youth of this country and stated that it deserves better. They indicated that this particular situation in the country at the moment is very difficult, and they had stated unequivocally that all young people around the world share similar stories, though with varying degrees. They pledged their absolute trust in the government and the efforts underway to improve the economy. Let's do more stories. Former Trade and Industry Minister Alan Kojo Manteng is expected to make a pronouncement of his political future today, Monday, September 25. He stepped down from the NPP on November 4 during the presidential primary after expressing discontent of some occurrences during the August Super Delegates Conference. The following report examines the potential effects of Alan's independent candidacy and how he prepares to go towards the 2024 general elections.
In the widely publicized press statement that announced his withdrawal from the NPP race, Alan Kyerematen promised to announce his political future in the coming days. The 67-year-old is not a stranger to NPP politics. For his supporters, this was the ultimate sacrifice for the NPP in a heated and deeply divisive presidential primary in 2007.
I wish to use this opportunity and this platform to congratulate my good friend and senior brother, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for a hard-won and well-deserved victory in the first round of the elections. As you've already been told, according to the rules of procedure under the constitution of our party, we are supposed to go into a second-round contest. However, I wish to use this opportunity to concede victory to my senior brother, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in order for us to preserve the unity of our great party.
This singular act of his was the final nail in the coffin of any plausible ambition to lead the NPP as flag bearer. The botched 2023 agenda to lead the NPP was the fourth time for the lawyer and diplomat. But what kind of appeal does Alan Chirmating have beyond the NPP?
When it comes to general election head-to-head, we've run that since 2022, January. And in all those instances, Alan Chirmating outperforms Bawumia against Maham consistently.
Will the NPP be affected if Alan decides to run as an independent candidate?
What we expect to happen is that if he goes independent, we expect him to do well in the Akan regions. And then he will also do well slightly among floating voters. But the biggest damage he will do will be to MPP's base, because a chunk of his support will come from MPP's base. And that will not be good for the MPP in 2024 if he decides to go independent.
The city of New York was the center of attraction last week as the world leaders gathered for the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. In this following report, TV3's Sani Abdulrahman shares with you all that has been happening last Sunday when they began their special coverage of the UN High-Level Week.
The General Assembly is the biggest gathering of the United Nations. Held every September at the UN headquarters in New York, it is a platform for world leaders to share their concerns and assessment of challenges and the needs of humanity. The high-level meetings bring together even sworn enemies under the same roof.
More than 150 world leaders gathered here this week, taking the UN podium one after the other to share their concerns with the international community. Biden, Zelensky, Akufo-Addo and Guinea's Doumbouya, who took power in a coup 2 years ago. A lot of diplomatic speed dating have also been going on here, countries meeting with each other on the side of the meetings to deepen relations.
From climate change, the war in Ukraine, geopolitical tension, debt crisis and poverty, the General Assembly is dealing with a crowded list of issues. But there appears no commitment from world leaders to come together to tackle the mounting crisis.
Our world is becoming unhinged. Geopolitical tensions are rising. Global challenges are mounting. And we seem incapable of coming together to respond.
The UN podium was yet another platform for global superpowers to court Africa. From President Biden, Chinese Vice President and Russia's Foreign Minister, their speeches appeared advocating for equal voice for Africa on the global stage. But some analysts believe it's just their scramble for influence and allies in the region. President Akufo-Addo lamented the double standard of global powers and called for inclusive development.
The big powers of the United Nations might be preaching democracy, fairness, and justice around the world, but are happy to practice the opposite here at the United Nations, prioritizing parochial interests over those of humanity.
But just outside the UN headquarters, some Ghanaians were protesting what they called his bad governance.
TV3's senior video journalist Peter Kwadato has been honored by the Volta NOT Regional Peace Council for his exceptional contributions to promoting peace in the two regions, particularly during the Alavanyo and Konya communal conflict from July 2014. His dedicated efforts have played a vital role in fostering improved intercommunal relationships within the two tribes involved.
Multiple award-winning video journalist Peter Kwadato has been instrumental in fostering improved intercommunal relations between the two tribes. Through his reports, he has been highlighting the crucial role of responsible journalism in promoting peace and understanding, especially in conflict-prone regions.
and recognizing the exceptional contributions of selected government officials, traditional leaders, peace ambassadors, and journalists who supported the Regional Peace Council's intervention in the Ababanyo-Nkunya conflict.
The Nkunya and Hinkro Traditional Council, the paramount chief of Nkunya Orapong, Nana Kojo Asiakwa II, the paramount chief of Alabanyo, Togbiga Jeje Atakura, as well as the Volta and Oti regional ministers, were also honored for their various roles in promoting peace in the two regions.
And so you will see that we wouldn't have done anything at all without the people of Alabanyo and Nkunya. First, giving us consent, recognizing the legitimacy of the mandate of the National Peace Council.
This is particularly important because peace is not merely the absence of conflict. It is the result of deliberate actions, efforts, and commitments made by individuals and communities.
The event, which coincided with the 2023 International Day of Peace Summit, was on the theme Actions for Peace, Celebrating Champions of Peace.
I dare to say that international peace has failed. If international peace has not failed, we will not have wars in certain parts of the world. Diplomacy is needed in peace. Respect is needed to create peace. Love is needed to create peace.
Agricultural investments in the Ga South and Ga West municipalities have suffered a severe blow due to the activities of the sand winning. The collapse of several agricultural investments has been attributed to the uncontrolled sand winning in the area. These sand miners, often armed and aggressive, pose a significant threat to farmers and their livelihoods.
The relentless attacks on farm owners and workers seeking access to farmlands for topsoil harvesting have led to over 60% of local and foreign agricultural investors in the region being forced to shut down their operations. Farms, once providing employment for local youth, are now abandoned and bare, with sand miners operating with impunity and armed aggression, willing to resort to violence against anyone who crosses their path. The latest incident was on Wednesday, September 20. The sand miners attacked a passion fruit farm, destroying prepared fields and removed the topsoil. The situation escalated, prompting the call for police reinforcement after the sand miners outnumbered the initial 4 policemen from the local police station. 5 of the sand miners were subsequently arrested, but later granted police inquiry bail.
We are already taking off. We've started the planting of the passion fruit. But come and see there, they've come to virtually destroy items there just to win to win sand. We've made several reports to the police. It's because those lands are family lands. Hence, the family will tell you, we've given you those lands, it's up to you to. We don't have the forces to protect. We have to rely on the police.
The local farmers are seeking a resolution that will enable them resume work, providing food and employment.
Let's do international now. A Kosovo police officer and 3 gunmen have been killed after about 30 attackers stormed the village before barricading themselves in a monastery, police say. Prime Minister Albin Kurti has urged the gunmen in the village of Banska near the Serbian border to surrender. He blamed Serbia-sponsored criminals. Serbia has not condemned the NATO-led peacekeeping force in Kosovo, says it has troops in the area and is ready to respond if required. Sunday's shooting began after police said they arrived in Banska, where a blockade had been reported. After officers were attacked from several different positions with an arsenal of firearms, including hand grenades and shoulder-fired missiles, they said in a statement.